This speaker has been recorded at a meeting of Addictive Eaters Anonymous. For more information, visit our website www.aeainfo.org.
I'm Jill, I'm an addictive eater, and it's good to be here. I was just thinking today, because I'm retired and have a lot of time to think, about just how long it has taken me to really understand this program, if I do. Particularly, I don't know why, but I don't think it was morbid reflection, but just thinking how long it has taken me to understand the defects of character. I don't think it's wallowing, but just aware that when I first came in, and particularly when I did a fourth and fifth step, the admitting the exact nature of my wrongs was really a list of all the terrible things I'd done all my life, and how much now I just have a better understanding of, particularly of my relationship with other people. Certainly before I came in, I had absolutely no understanding. I always knew there was something wrong with me, and I always covered it up with a lot of superiority. I remember I always knew there was something wrong with me and there was something wrong with my eating, right from when I was a little kid. I have recollections of stealing food and hiding food when I was about 3 years old. And it certainly wasn't from hunger, it was just having to have more. I always thought as I was growing up that if I could deal with the food, if I could do something with that, which I didn't seem to be able to do, everything else had come right. Or if I could deal with the me problem, my food, I'd be able to deal with the food. And it was when I came here that I realised that the food and the me problem were all part of the same thing. And it was actually a relief. I didn't like being an addictive eater. I'd been in AA a while, and even I could conjure up a bit of glamour about my drinking, but there was no glamour about my eating. I just hid in the corner. I was very ashamed of it and very defiant about it and very blaming others for it. I always had that feeling if I could deal with one, the other would come. And coming in here and discovering that my defects were my personality, or that all those problems I had were part of addiction, it was actually a relief. I didn't like being here, and I used to rage at God and say, God, you've made me an alcoholic, isn't that enough? What are you doing making me an addictive eater as well? I don't think I said those things out loud. I might have. But I certainly thought them, and that was my thinking for a long time, that raging at God and just hating being here. I look back on that time and I cannot imagine thinking like that today. One of the things I love about being in this program is looking back at the way I used to think and just not even being able to imagine thinking like that, all that negativity, all that anger, all that blame. I can still blame, but it's not anything like it used to be. And I love that today. But I came in here and I don't think I really understood anything very much about this program, but I kept coming back. And I just love coming here to meetings and hearing people sharing recovery. That's very much how I learned about myself and the defects of character, and reading the big book taught me an enormous amount about being an addict, being a human being actually, but particularly being an addict, all those sort of quirks of the addict personality. But even more than that, it has been listening to other people's sharing, talking to people one-to-one, but I think even more, somehow I've always heard people much more in meetings, people sharing their little defects. It was interesting last week, somebody was sharing about that sneaky behaviour that's still in them. And I had an experience last week. I had sent in donation receipts to Inland Revenue for a tax credit, and they actually credited me more. It wasn't much money, it was only, not much anyway. And I thought to myself, you don't want to draw attention to yourself with IRD. Now, I, as far as I know, have never done anything wrong in relation to IRD, and there's no reason whatsoever, as far as I know, why I should be concerned about them. But I do know people, some of them close family members, who have real concerns about drawing attention to themselves with IRD. It was just ridiculous. I had this debate in my head for several days about this, just drop it, don't worry about it. They'd already given me this money. But it took about 4 days before I just sent them a little message saying, you've overpaid me, blah, blah, blah. They rang me the next day and said, it's all fine, don't worry about it. But I thought that behaviour is still in me, that sort of sneaky behaviour for absolutely no reason. It's like I can remember years ago was when I first came into the program, and I remember having some problem, no idea what it was, and talking to my sponsor about what I was going to say to people. She just looked at me absolutely puzzled and said, why don't you just tell the truth? And it genuinely had not occurred to me it was an option. Most of the time that sort of stuff's got a lot better, but left to my own devices, that's what my head can do. To me, that's addiction, and that's the stuff I hear at every meeting I come to. I hear people with those little stories of their everyday life, the little silly things we do for no good reason, but I also hear at every meeting I go to, and I love that I know that this will happen, I hear people living well. I know last week we had a meeting and several people were sharing about how they had done, and it wasn't showing off. It's the sort of thing that when I first came in, I would have thought, it's all very well for you, you've got a happy life and you've got this, that and the other. It wasn't that sort of thing. They were just sharing little ways in which they had been able to make other people's lives better. It was just lovely. I think about 4 people in a row, and they were just little snippets of everyday life. And they were able to brighten someone's life. Before I came in, I just had no sense of doing that sort of thing. I would have thought, why would you do it? And then I think, what difference was it make? It's only me who cares how I behave or what I think or what I say. All that complicated negative thinking that just ruled my life. I need to hear those simple messages. Every meeting I come to, I know I need to hear people sharing about the joys of recovery, the pleasures of being an ordinary, everyday person who can live well and live as God would have them live. Somewhere along the line, I hear that message, I hear that simplicity of people's lives, and it goes with me. But I know it doesn't seem to last very long. I know if I stopped coming to meetings, I would start to think, oh, what's the point of going to a meeting? It's not going to make any difference. I could go on forever about the negative thinking that I know would come into my head. So I need to be here. I have absolutely no doubts. I'm just really grateful that I'm here because I'm not here on merit. I've been a slow learner in this program. It's just great to be here. I was just thinking as I was sharing that I haven't talked about the food at all. And I thought when I first came here, I came here to get thin. Later on, I came here to get rid of the obsession, hopefully. It never really occurred to me that everything else in life could change. Because when I was eating, I hated being overweight. I hated being obsessed with food, although I'm not sure I realised that, but I hated thinking about food all the time. I hated the way I just couldn't stop eating. But just as much, I hated the way I was as a person. I hated that I woke up every morning angry with everyone. I was full of self-pity and resentment and every other negativity you can think of. AA saying how great it was to be sober, and I wasn't. I'm just very glad to be here today. I'm very grateful that I can come here every week and you will all be here and you will have your stories of recovery. I often think I know that whatever happens for the rest of my life, there'll be somebody here that I could call on at any time of the day or night. Although given that we're an international fellowship, if it was the middle of the night, I'd try and choose somebody on the other side of the world. Difference to your need for sleep. I know I could do that. I remember that 10 years ago, I was travelling in Europe, and when I had problems with food, it was during the day there, 2 o'clock in the morning here. I was able to ring somebody in Ireland and check those things out. And that's what we've got in this program. And I think people with all sorts of diseases have to live on their own with them, have to deal with them, have to suffer with them. And all we have to do is come to meetings, follow a few simple rules, as we heard the other day, try and live as God would have me live, and that will be there. I absolutely love the permanence of this program. You know, that solid foundation for living that it gives me. So it's good to be here. Thank you.